All right, if you're managing anyone from Gen Z, so born after 1997, you've probably had one of those moments. A moment that just leaves you scratching your head. Something your old management training definitely did not prepare you for. Today, we're going to break down a whole new playbook for leading this generation, and it all starts with a very simple but very powerful question.
Ah, there it is. But why though? You give a clear, totally reasonable instruction, and instead of a simple got it, you get that. It can really feel like a direct challenge to your authority, right? But what if it isn't? What if something else is going on entirely?
Well, the good news is you're not imagining things. This really is a genuinely new dynamic in the workplace. And it doesn't mean this generation is broken or flawed. It means our old leadership models are becoming obsolete. To fix it, we first have to understand what's actually driving that question in the first place.
And this really gets to the heart of the paradox. Gen Z has sky-high ambition, they want to succeed, but their resilience can feel, well, kind of fragile at times. They're wired to distrust authority as a concept, yet deep down, they are searching for leaders they can actually trust and believe in. That's the tightrope we as managers have to walk.
So to lead them effectively, we can't just react to the behaviors we see on the surface. We've got to understand the root cause. Their entire worldview has been forged by a really unique set of circumstances that are fundamentally different from any generation that came before.
Just look at this timeline for a second. This is a generation raised on smartphones, which literally rewired their attention from childhood. They watched their parents get crushed in the 2008 recession, learning early on that loyalty to a company doesn't always pay off. Their education was completely upended by a global pandemic, and then they started their careers in a world of remote work and crazy economic uncertainty. These aren't just bullet points. These are the forces that shaped their entire perspective.
And the number one outcome of that whole timeline? Anxiety. For Gen Z, this isn't just a fleeting feeling. It's a defining characteristic. It's the filter through which they see the world. So when you see those comfort-seeking behaviors, like constantly reaching for a phone, it's often not laziness. It's a coping mechanism for an environment that feels chronically unstable and overwhelming.
And this brings us to the so-called soft skills gap. You know, for older generations, learning how to read a room, handle conflict, and collaborate, that happened through years of daily, in-person practice. It was messy cafeterias, group projects in an actual room, face-to-face disagreements. Gen Z had a huge chunk of that practice replaced by screens and remote interactions. So the result isn't a character flaw, it's a practice deficit. They simply haven't had as many reps.
So knowing all of this, how in the world do we lead? The answer isn't to be tougher or to double down on old methods. It's to be smarter. It requires a pretty fundamental shift in our approach, moving away from a model that's based on rank and authority to one that's based on connection and genuine trust.
Let's just compare the old model to the new one. The old command and control way is simple. You give an order, they comply, the task gets done. But with Gen Z, this just leads to disengagement. The trust-based model, however, starts with explaining the why. It invites questions and builds a shared understanding. The result isn't just compliance, it's commitment. And commitment almost always leads to a much better outcome.
Now, this is one of the most powerful tools in the new playbook, especially for giving feedback. See, most managers jump straight to step 4, sharing their observation. But if you start by just asking, how do you think that went? You give them a chance to surface their own awareness. This one simple change turns a difficult, corrective conversation into a collaborative coaching moment. It's a total game changer.
And this right here is the core principle that makes everything else we're talking about work. If your team trusts you, if they feel you have their back, then the rules and structures you put in place don't feel like a cage. They feel like guardrails designed to help them succeed. It really all comes down to the relationship.
Okay, so let's get practical. Understanding the why behind all this is one thing, but our job as leaders is to take action. We can't just be frustrated by the gaps in anxiety management, resilience, or soft skills. We have to see it as our job to actually help build them. Well, let's start with anxiety. This cycle, it's probably happening on your team right now. Unclear expectations create anxiety, which drives the employee to their phone for a hit of comfort. This, of course, tanks their focus and performance, which then leads to guilt and avoidance, and the anxiety becomes even higher. It's a downward spiral, but the good news is you can reverse it. And this is how you do it. You provide crystal clear context. You make their progress visible. This simple act lowers their anxiety, which in turn increases their focus. Better focus leads to better performance, which builds real earned confidence. You've just created an upward spiral that replaces that old vicious one.
Building resilience might be the most important job we have. This framework gives you 4 concrete actions. First, challenge them with work that stretches them but doesn't completely break them. Then, support them, and this is critical. Check in before they get lost, not after they fail. Afterwards, don't just move on, reflect. Debrief the hard moments to find the lesson. And finally, recognize their growth. Acknowledge the effort in the new skills, not just the final result. This is how you teach them that struggle leads to strength.
So let's bring this all together. I know, adapting to a new generation can feel like a lot of extra work. But here's the secret. These changes aren't just about managing Gen Z. They're about becoming a better leader, period.
And that's the crucial takeaway. Explaining the why, building trust, giving clear context, coaching for growth, these are the hallmarks of great modern leadership. Gen Z isn't asking for special treatment. They are simply the first generation that won't let us get away with leadership shortcuts anymore.
So here it is, your cheat sheet for the next time you feel stuck. 1. Lead with reasoning, not just your rank. 2. Before you give feedback, ask, listen, and empathize. 3. Give them real ownership, not just tasks. 4. Reduce their anxiety with clear context. 5. Don't let them guess about their future, map their growth path out for them. And 6. Give them choice and autonomy, but within a clear structure. This is the playbook.
Ultimately, it all comes down to this. When that young employee asks, "But why though?" they're not just questioning the task. They're asking a much bigger question about you and your leadership. They're asking if you're someone worth following. The generation that questions everything is asking if you are worth believing in. The real question is, what will your answer be?